What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Season 1, Episode 7, The Retreat. So before I get into this one, I did hear a really funny joke in between the last recording session and this one, because I was talking to my friend Andrew, who I typically discuss Marvel stuff and Star Wars stuff with him, and I was talking about how painful She-Hulk has been. And one of the things I referenced was the fact that a lot of her fourth wall breaks are not funny. And his response, the only walls she should be breaking are actual walls, am I right? It's a good one. It's a good one. Go check out his channel, The Random Phantom Show. Funny guy. Really funny guy. But anyways, getting into this episode, yeah, it was not good. It was still not enjoyable. I did not find myself laughing. However, it was different. And so because of that, it actually was kind of, it wasn't painful. It was a little refreshing because we weren't focusing on all the stupid catty stuff with Titania. We weren't focusing on her being an attorney. It was actual, first of all, some positivity, which kind of refreshing after the last episode especially. But I don't know, it was kind of out there and a little weird. And so it was kind of not charming necessarily, but close-ish to charming. It was charming-ish. I felt I wasn't frustrated watching most of this episode. There still were definitely moments where I saw better opportunities for jokes. I saw moments where it still was kind of stupid the way they set it up. But for the most part, it was fine. Like, it was just uneventful. It's probably an episode I won't remember. So I guess it's one of those questions of, would you prefer to watch something that's so bad that it sticks with you? Or would you prefer to watch something that's bad, but you don't really remember it? Because it's not that bad. So it's just kind of, it's here. It's not causing me any pain, but I'm not going to remember this episode in a couple of weeks, more than likely. But focusing on the retreat itself, it's a funny idea, but again, not really anything clever done with it. This idea that Emil Blonsky is running this retreat and helping these other superpowered people come to terms with their abilities. It was fine. The big issue I had with it was that whole scene where they were in the circle and then the one guy comes in that tried to attack Jen before, and they have that confrontation and they're sitting there talking with her. There were a lot of moments in that I feel like you could have done something funnier with it. Like the whole scene where she's talking about what she texted Josh and all of that. It felt like they had a good idea there because all these guys are listening to her texts and reacting to it and stuff. The problem is they're all reacting like a bunch of females listening to this. I think it would have been funnier if they reacted to it from the guy's point of view. You know, like telling her, no, don't you understand how that sounds? And she's confused about why it sounds bad. But the thing is, she knows it sounds bad. She's reacting like, I know, this was dumb. And they're all reacting the same way. I feel like it would have been funnier to have that disconnect. Have her say what she texted him and not understanding why this is a bad thing. And all the guys are going, no, you got to understand, like, from a guy's point of view, this is what it sounds like. But none of that is what happened. It was just her sitting there feeling upset and embarrassed about these texts and the guys reacting because they agree with her. And it's not as funny if you don't have that sort of that disconnect there between the two. When they're all reacting the same way, it's not as funny. And I feel like there's something missing in that whole scene because of it. Also, the scene where she depowers after opening up and talking about her issues being Jen and being overlooked for She-Hulk. That scene doesn't make any sense because she walked into the room as Jen. So it's not like they didn't see her before. Like, I know now she's a part of the group and she is Jen in the group. But it still doesn't make any sense because it's not like she's been hiding who Jen was as She-Hulk this entire time. So that felt kind of weirdly set up. It would have been better if she walked into the cabin or whatever it is as She-Hulk. But I will say, the whole her coming to grips with being Jen, it was fine. It's held back by the same issue that all of these productions, any story that is like this, where there's a girl who's overlooked, almost always it's some attractive girl that no guy would turn down. And that's the same thing here. The girl playing Jen, she's attractive. It's not like there are a bunch of guys turning their nose up like, oh my God, look at her. Isn't she just so, isn't she just plain? No. Most guys would want to be with a woman who looks like that. Especially how many guys there are out there that are more focused on the physical and not anything deeper. There are quite a few guys out there like that. There are plenty that would look at her and be like, yeah, please. So the fact that they're treating this as if she's not attractive, but She-Hulk is attractive to guys, it is kind of I have to suspend my disbelief, because I know Hollywood is not going to make their main star somebody who is plain or unattractive. So just kind of have to put the Hollywood blinders on and go, okay, so this is Hollywood ugly, I guess. Yeah, I think a lot of the jokes, you look at the guy that doesn't want to be a matador, but he definitely looks and sounds like a matador. You've got the guy that's man bull. Their back and forth was almost funny, but not quite. It was like getting to that level where I was like, oh, I'm almost laughing. It's not painfully unfunny. It's just not quite there. There's something missing. The porcupine, the joke with him taking off the mask, it was kind of, I feel like it would have been funnier if it was a bit darker. Like he takes off the mask and everybody reacts like, oh my God, oh, it smells. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I realize I'm hideous, and puts it back on or something. And when it's just the smell, it be very reminiscent of the SpongeBob episode for sure. But I feel like that would have been a bit funnier instead of him just sitting there like, yeah, this feels great. And everybody's just like, oh my God, oh. It's not as funny if he's completely oblivious to everybody else, to me. And then there's nothing really that funny done with the guy that thinks he's a vampire. He had one joke that it almost landed, but then he had to say something afterwards. It very much similar to the whole Bruce saying, yeah, I was a totally different person. Literally, haha. It was a decent joke. I almost laughed, and then he had to keep going. He's talking about, I bet Jen is a wonderful person and tastes delicious or something. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was talking about drinking blood a lot. And so he said that. He threw that in at the end. And that was funny enough. Like, I would have had a little chuckle about that. But then he had to go and, oh, I'm sorry, I took it too far. Somebody please cover for me. That's not funny. That is not funny. So you've now ruined another joke. Once again, I feel like the writing in the show is really what holds it back. There are some interesting enough ideas. Some of it is not that interesting, but some of it is. The idea of a superhero attorney is not a bad idea. What they've done with it, the writing for it has not been good. This whole idea of this retreat run by Emil, it's a good idea. Not really much was done with it, though, to make it funny and make it entertaining. It was just kind of there and happening for most of the episode. Also, the fact that one guy is there, pretty sure he's not superhuman, so what is he doing there? It feels like a very random thing. So it almost makes me wonder if this is all going to tie back to Emil, like he is actually the bad guy, and that's why this guy is here working with him. Because there's no other reason for him to be there. He's not superhuman, as far as we know. So why is he there? He talks about, oh yeah, we got those things, but we realize we don't even need them anymore. Where's the rest of his guys? They were working for whoever this boss is. So what, is he just turned over a new leaf? Or is he here tracking Jen? It felt very random. But again, I don't think there's anything else to that other than just we need to have confrontation. So let's have this guy show up. And honestly, it is kind of funny in an ironic way, because she talks about, you probably don't even remember who this guy was. And I'm just like, no, I don't, because that whole group left no meaningful impact on me. So it's almost kind of funny how self-aware the writers are that people are not going to remember stuff that happens in the show, so they have to show them. It's probably the first time the fourth wall breaking has been used, at least to an effect. The rest of them have not had any effect on me at all. This one actually had a point. Like, yes, I need to remember who this guy is, because I do not recollect him at all. But the final thing to talk about is, of course, Josh, and I called it. I mean, I would assume most of the audience called it. It seemed like a pretty obvious twist that this one nice guy comes up to her to talk to her, and it turns out he's a douchebag who's actually working for the enemy. It makes sense. From the point of view of this show, from the idea of this show that men are just trash, this makes sense. First decent guy to come talk to her, first guy that's interested in Jen. Well, there's no way he can be interested in Jen, because men are shallow and they only want attractive women, and Jen's not attractive, so it can't be that. It's stupid to a frustrating degree again, because yeah, it's like one of those things where it makes sense from the confines of the show, but in reality, if you look at it out of the confines of the show, if you look at it just from the point of view of an audience that's just watching this, it's obvious, but there's no reason why it should be obvious. This should not be the first guy to be interested in Jen. This should not be the first nice guy in the show that she deals with that actually is wanting to be with her. But he is, so obviously, because we've not had any sort of semblance of that throughout the rest of the show, we have to assume that there's something wrong with him. And I hate the show for it. Because it really does. What it makes me think of is Jessica Jones. Like, the first season of Jessica Jones was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Season 2 and 3, I had a lot of issues with it because it was written in such a negative note. Like, there was a feeling that nobody was happy. Everybody cheated on everybody. There's always issues. Nobody's in an actual happy marriage. Nobody's actually happy with anybody else. There's always people out to get you. There's always people that have some ulterior motive. Nobody just wants to be around you or be with you for a good reason. There's always something else. They had so many characters like that. So many characters in season 2 and 3 of Jessica Jones that just really exemplified the worst of humanity and what the human connections shouldn't be. But that's what they made normal in that show. That was their normality, was those type of relationships that were just absolutely awful. There's so many terrible people in that. That's what She-Hulk has done. They've just shown the worst and the worst and the worst of men. And it's frustrating because it feels like it's written from the point of view of a bitter woman who has been hurt by men before, has dated a lot of the wrong men, and so they came in, wrote this show to just really stick it to men and be like, see, men are just the worst. Here's one example of a man that I was with, and here's another example of a man I was with, and here's another one. See, aren't these guys just terrible? Men are just awful. You realize how many men watch Marvel, right? You realize that is a majority of your audience is going to be men, and you are dunking on them consistently, and not in a fun way, not in like a, haha, men are so much like that's the thing. If you were doing certain man stereotypes, like let's say you had men in the show who are constantly looking for something but never could find it, and then Jen shows up and she finds it instantly. That's a funny thing, because yeah, most men are like that. I'm like that. There are so many times when I'm looking for something, I can't find it, and then all of a sudden my girlfriend comes in and she's just like, it's right here. Like, but I looked there. Why wasn't it there before? It's a thing. I don't know why it's a thing, but it's a thing. But that's a funny thing. That is something that can be made fun of, but in a teasing way. What they're showing of men is just, no, they're creeps. They're perverts. They're awful people. They're terrible human beings. You realize why that might isolate most of your audience, right? Right? But that's the thing. I don't think they do. I don't think they do realize that that's what they're doing. I think they think that, yeah, we're making a statement that women are so awesome. You're not doing it correctly, though. You're not doing it in a way that is going to get your whole audience invested in this character or in your show. You're isolating so many people, and it's terrible writing. So anyways, with all that being said, yeah, I don't know what this group is going to be. I hope we get some answers in the next episode. I'm assuming we're finally going to find out more about them in the next episode so that we can build up to the final episode where, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is going to turn into a season 2 thing, because I don't know, it feels weird that we would have this group that's seemingly trying to kill her or take her blood or something. It seems weird that we would have this group brought up and we would see them throughout most of the season, but they're not actually a focal point until the final 2 episodes, and then we just stop them. So maybe this will carry over into next season. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not interested enough to really theorize much about it. Outside of the obvious theories that I've already come up with, like they want to take her blood so the boss can become Hulk and kill her, or they want to use her blood to synthesize something that can kill her. Or, I don't know, maybe they're going to make bullets that infused with her blood and somehow that can pierce her skin. I don't know. I don't care enough to come up with any clever ideas. So those are the simple ones that come to mind right off the bat. But anyways, with all that being said, on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 8, Ribbit and Rip It. Hi, Charlie Cox. Thanks for being the best thing about this season. Yeah, I mean, I knew he was going to be in it because I'd obviously seen stuff about it. I also did see pictures of the new suit, and yeah, the yellow does look weird, even if it is comic accurate. I don't care. He was the best part of this season. This whole episode is the best episode for this season. It's like they brought in a new writer for this one episode, and so much of the dialogue actually worked between them. Maybe it's because they have chemistry. I was actually more invested between their story. But yeah, I mean, so many of their scenes, as soon as he walked into the courtroom, I was like, okay, let's see what they do. Hopefully they don't ruin his character. And as soon as he started talking, I'm like, nope, this is brilliant. This is great. He's the best character of the season easily. I don't know if it's, like I said, a different writer for this episode. Maybe it's just Charlie Cox making these lines sound better, and maybe they're still just as bad this episode, but he did a good job of making them sound more natural and believable. But man, it took so many steps up in this episode. Almost everything to do with him and She-Hulk, like their connection, their back and forth. All of it just felt so much better. It's so weird, and it sucks because I'm sure this final episode he's not going to be here, and it's probably going to be 10 times worse because of it. Back to the same old shit. And based on how this episode ended, wouldn't be too surprised because, yeah, as soon as he left the show, it's like, all right, time to get to the finale now. Let's throw some very obvious jokes at you, wish he's talking to the fourth wall again, because, you know, that's right on course for this whole season. But before we get to all of that, though, I mean, the overarching story for Daredevil being in here, it's okay. You know, it's pretty straightforward. You kind of figure that the kid did something wrong with the rocket boots, knowing that Luke is the one making the super suits for all these people. You kind of figure he's not in the wrong. You kind of figure that the kid is the one that did something wrong. I wasn't sure how they were going to work around it, since Luke blamed her for her boss forcing her to take on this client, which I think is kind of stupid and shallow. I mean, most people know that lawyers, they take on these cases. Some of them don't even have a choice what cases they take on. They're just told to, not because they're like supportive of the client. It's their job. They're supposed to defend or prosecute or whatever for their client. That's the point of having lawyers. So the fact that she was being blamed by Luke for being this kid's attorney, it felt kind of stupid and meaningless, and it did add that set piece for the finale that was also kind of meaningless in the end. Like, that's, you know, as soon as Luke gets kidnapped, this is how she's going to get back in his good grace, by saving his life. So it just kind of felt predictable at that point. And the fighting itself was fine. I obviously did like most of the scenes with Daredevil. I was not a big fan of how much they used CGI on him, though. I really wish they had stuck to keeping the focus on him where it should be, which is the parkour, the very realistic feel. I was really hoping for a one shot with one of his fight scenes, but none of them were. Unfortunately, they were all quick cuts, and that is frustrating, because that is one thing about the show, Daredevil show, that was so good. And I really hope, because I looked it up to see, Daredevil Born Again comes out next year. I really hope that whoever did the directing of the choreograph fight scenes or whatever, I really hope that it's the same person that was on the Netflix show, because man, those fight scenes were so good. But yeah, it's not like this was all perfect, everything to do with Matt coming into the show. There were definitely issues, but overall, for me, it's just the characters took so many steps up in this episode. And again, a lot of that was down to the connection and the chemistry that those two shared. So I still do feel like there should have been a moment whenever Matt takes out the initial guards. I think he should have done all that on his own. I think her jumping in and knocking out those 5 guys, like, it's one of those, it's a regression of her character, because even though she's been humbled a lot this season now, because that's what I talked about in the first episode, you know, she kept getting away with doing it her own way, even though Bruce had all this experience. Another situation here where Matt has been doing this for a while. He's been a hero for a while. She hasn't done anything really as a hero, as She-Hulk. And so when he gives her some instructions, she should be like, I don't mind if at first she's a little put off, like, come on, like, I'm She-Hulk, I'm indestructible, let me do this. But then he has some good points, and either she does sit on the bench until he's done the initial part, and then, you know, she can follow his strategy, or if she does her own thing, let there be consequences for it. But neither of those things happened. She didn't sit on the sidelines. She did initially, but then she decided, I'm tired of waiting, and just jumped in. And then that didn't really change anything. They went in and kicked ass anyway. So it's like she's not being punished. I guess there are no consequences for not listening to the advice of people who are more experienced than her. And again, that's where I feel like they've done this too many times with these types of characters, where whatever they do, it just works. It doesn't matter if there's people out there who know more than they do. It doesn't matter. I'm doing it, and so it works because I'm the main character, and nobody can tell me what to do because I'm strong and independent, and you can't control me. It's not always about that. It's not always about controlling. It's not always about trying to show, hey, I'm better than you. Matt is more experienced. He's been doing this for years. She has not done this at all. It makes sense to listen to the guy with more experience. If I was going into a job, let's say I was going into, I'll do something simple, shipping. Say I was going to a shipping business, and I'm one of the guys helping get stuff packed and loaded onto a truck, right? I go in there, my first day. I don't know how this business works, but I have an idea of how I think I can make everything feel more flowing, like a better workflow. I have those ideas, and so I go and I'm like, here, let's do it this way. Guy with more experience comes in and says, no, that's not effective. Trust me, I've done this for a while. Here's the best way to do it. And I go, I already know what I want to do. Let me show you. And I go to do it, and then it works out fine. How, like that would not put my ego in check. That would just build my ego up. But the thing is, that's not how it works. If I actually did try to do that, 9 times out of 10, probably like 99 times out of 100, it's going to work better. The people who've been working there a lot longer than me have done it. Like the way that they figured out how to do it, it's probably going to be better than my first day idea. Why are we showing that her first day ideas are better than people who have done whatever it is, whether it's being a Hulk, whether it's being a hero? They've been doing it for years. She goes in first day, nah, here's how we should do it. And then they do it that way and it works. That's not a good message. Honestly, it speaks to entitled people. It lets entitled people know, hey, you have an idea and people are shutting you down even though they have a lot more experience than you. They're wrong. You know, they're wrong. They just don't respect you. They don't respect your ideas. Not, let's do it their way. And then as you get more experience, maybe you do find, like if I've been working going back to the shipping job, I've been working there for a couple of years and I have an idea that maybe a 10-year guy hadn't had, that would make more sense because I actually have that experience to figure out a new solution, to figure out a new way that maybe he didn't think about. But that's not what's happening here. Again, first time really being a superhero. She's not going to have an idea that Matt is not going to have on her first time actually trying to be a hero. So it's really frustrating that the writers, to make their character look better and look amazing and all of that, they have to make stupid decisions like this. They have to do things where the main character does something that shouldn't work and then it does work, just to make sure everybody knows, hey, our character, she's awesome. She's even better than Daredevil. Daredevil said to do it this way. She came in and showed him his way sucks. Her way is better. You're making a mockery of these other heroes by doing this. But then, of course, we get to the final scene, and yeah, the fourth wall break for it, like I said, wasn't that interesting. Also, did she break the fourth wall at the end there? She like looked right at the camera as she's being surrounded, and she was looking at us all scared. How does that make any sense? Like all the fourth wall breaks so far have just been these weird random non sequiturs or jokes and stuff that doesn't make sense. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we're actually characters in this, guys. And she's looking at us scared. Like, look how scared she is. We should feel sorry for her. We should try to do something about that. We can't. We're in the audience. It felt so weird. But yeah, the gala itself, not that interesting. I don't know if they're trying to make some sort of statement with all of these different women getting the award. Like, oh, this is how men don't respect women. They don't even want to choose a best. They want to give so many of them. Or if they're just trying to, I don't know, make a statement that too many women are getting represented. I don't even know what the point of that was, to have all these different women win the award. It felt like they were trying to make a point, and I just don't know what that point is. You know, like the best thing I can think of, and this is just based on how the rest of the show has run and how the themes have developed. In my mind, it's, well, the men are the ones that come up with this award show, and they don't respect the women enough to actually look in and choose who's been the best. So they just give it to a bunch of women who are working and just like, here you go, all of you get an award, be happy. Which we know that if multiple people get an award, it doesn't really mean anything. If more than one person can win it, it's kind of a pointless award. If everyone's special, nobody is. You know, that type of thing, which is weird that I've referenced The Incredibles again in talking about the show, but God, I can't believe how much better the show would have been if Edna or an Edna type was the designer instead of Luke. But then the final scene where whatever this Hulk King like group does their thing, I don't understand. It felt like they were trying to get her blood to, again, kill her, create another Hulk, something along those lines. What does embarrassing her in front of all these people and getting her to rage, which, by the way, the fact that she just raged at that and destroyed the thing and did all that stuff, it's kind of funny how much she talked about, I'm always in control of my emotions, and then here at the end, she completely loses control over something that's like, okay, these people have been after you for a while, and they pop up at this gala, okay? You know that they've been talking about something on this site for a while. Why is this all of a sudden like, I don't know, it felt a little too easy to provoke her into this rage and, you know, get her to this point of now everybody fears her and she's assuming going to be arrested for the damages she caused. Also, the fact that all these guys managed to walk in with, you know, half their face covered. I mean, this is the Marvel universe. They've not had to deal with the thing that will not be named. So why are they allowed to walk around with face coverings on? I feel like that shouldn't be allowed at a gala. It just feels like, oh, here's our big final twist for the finale, and I'm not invested in this finale. I'm not ready to see what's going to happen next because you've not given me any sort of story to look forward to. Like, you've shown this group in bits and pieces in a couple of episodes this season. You've not built them up at all. You've hardly had any sort of lead up into what they're trying to do. It's just, okay, so a group that doesn't like her because she's a woman Hulk, I guess, and they don't like women Hulks or something. I don't know. You're going to have to give me a reason. The only idea that I possibly have is this Todd guy who seems very interested in her. I don't know if that's supposed to be like I don't know what to call it, but I've seen this in crime shows and stuff when you have like a murder victim and you have all these people coming in and talking about the murder victim, it tends to be that whoever's talking the most favorable about the person that died tends to be the one who killed them. You got like the rich socialite that dies and their son or daughter comes in like, oh my gosh, they were such a great parent. I loved them truly. Like they really helped my life. And I'm so sad that honestly, like they left their inheritance, but it's not about that for me. I don't even want the inheritance. I'm going to give it away. I miss them so much. They're the ones that did it. So for Todd, is that what they're doing here? Is like he actually hates her existence? And so all of this talk about her being so fantastic and incredible and an interesting specimen and all of that, for him, it's not that at all? Or is it something even more stupid where maybe he wants to be with her so bad that he wants her blood, and so he got all these people that hate her to work for him, thinking that he wants to kill her, but in reality he wants to be a Hulk too so he can be with her? Is that what I don't know. I'm, again, spitballing ideas that just come to my mind because I really don't want to think too hard about this because I don't think there's any way I'm going to be able to use my brain to think about this because I'm guessing no brain cells went into the making of the script based on how the season has gone. I'm not at all looking forward to this finale. So, like I said, best episode this season, but I'm sure it's not going to continue past this. So, goodbye, Charlie Cox, and thank you for giving us at least one decent episode of Hulk, or She-Hulk, that I could somewhat enjoy. But anyways, on to the finale. I'll see you there. And now episode 9. Whose show is this? What did I just watch? What did I just watch? I truly don't know. It wasn't good, I'll tell you that, but what did I just watch? I mean, because the thing is, as everything was starting to go down, I was having my issues with it. And yeah, there were a couple of things that I was sitting there, I was like, okay, this is somewhat cleverly set up. You know, the fact that Todd can just take her blood and somehow become the Hulk makes no sense. Because It's something special in her blood and in Bruce's blood that allows them to become the Hulk. So he shouldn't be able to. We've already established that. So for him to become the Hulk makes no sense in general. On top of that, Abomination being involved out of nowhere, that makes no sense at all. And then of course Bruce coming back, that was obviously just there for the joke. And so same thing for Titania. So there were a couple of things that felt more so like they were thrown in to be part of the joke of like, oh, she's going to say, no, this is weird and too much, and we're going to change the ending. A couple of those things felt like they could have easily been twists that the show would have thrown in. I don't know. It feels, I mean, obviously part of the whole thing was that Todd was the one doing all of this. I called that for sure. And yeah, the fact that it was just he was doing this because she doesn't deserve to be She-Hulk, and it's a bunch of, it's that stereotype of the guy that is going around saying that it's not because she's a female, but it's just, I would be making the same criticisms. There's a lot of guys that say that, and most of the time those guys are just seen as sexist. And the problem is that a lot of the criticisms against female-based movies are legit. Again, I have a lot of issues with Captain Marvel. People are going to call me a sexist because of that, but it's true. You got to write a good story. I'm going to say the same thing here. I'm going to have the same issues here. Doesn't matter that it's She-Hulk. The fact of the matter is, this story is not good. And throwing in this sudden surprise ending where she's able to break out of the show, go to Marvel, and talk with Kevin, an AI that's writing this. I mean, first of all, this became even more scary to think about because there's a good chance there's a lot of AI writing now. So the fact that they made this joke in 2022, I'm just sitting here going, you guys already were probably doing some of this, aren't you? And you wanted to make a joke about it because like, haha, could you imagine if we did this? But you probably are actually doing this, aren't you? But I mean, just that whole scene, it felt like there were some jokes. I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. It's not really making me laugh, but at least they're jokes that somewhat make sense. Some of the jokes throughout the season did not make a lick of sense at all. So at least some of these jokes, I wasn't laughing because I was very confused about what was going on, but I see where the joke was. I do see, okay, that is a joke. Typically, probably would get a chuckle out of me, but I'm too far confused right now to laugh at anything. But the whole change to her story, now it does make a lot of the season now kind of unsatisfying because the way that it ends, it doesn't feel like it's a superhero show, but they're trying to play it off like, no, guys, it's a superhero show, but it's also a legal drama or legal comedy. Like she's also a lawyer. She's not just a superhero. She's also a lawyer. First of all, most Marvel fans probably not coming here for the legal drama or comedy, whatever you want to call it. They're not here to watch court cases. That's not why we tune into Marvel properties. Again, Daredevil knew how to make it to where the legal part of Matt Murdock was there. Everything to do with the courtroom, it was there. It did not take up too much time, though, because we're here to watch superheroes. We're here to watch these people overcome the odds and win the day and battles and fighting and all of that fun stuff, because that's what comic book movies are about. It's an escape from reality. If you just take all that away and say, we're going to put it in the courtroom, where's the fun in that? You know, and especially when you have dialogue that's as sloppy as this season has been, so a lot of the comedy is not actually making anyone laugh, that's not going to work. A lot of her changes, you know, it makes Todd now just basically his story is pretty much easily wrapped up because they expose the plot and he gets arrested and She-Hulk gets absolved of her crimes. I'm thinking, well, she still did go crazy and rage out. You know, like they still did do that. It shouldn't matter that they had this criminal conspiracy to do this. Like, yeah, that's all awful. But what she did, she still did that. So there still should be well, if you can't control yourself because somebody came after you, why do you think that's the last time somebody's going to do that? Why do you think that's the last time a criminal is going to go after your emotional state and try to make you rage out again and destroy a bunch of stuff? Like, if they know that that's possible, a lot of criminals are probably going to do that in the future. Not too far-fetched, to be honest. So the fact that exposing the criminal plot that they used to make her rage out suddenly makes it to where she's fine, she's okay, you're off the hook, take off the inhibitor. It does feel a little weird, and it doesn't quite fit the narrative overall, because even here at the end we see Abomination. He has to go back to prison because he turned into Abomination to do the speaking event. Which, was he helping fund hulking? Was he a part of that at all? I don't know. It felt weird, like he was there talking to them, but then whenever Jen showed up, it seemed like, no, I don't want to hurt her, but that's the whole reason why they're there. Did he not know about that? Did he not know they were trying to upset her and make her Hulk out and destroy things? Like, how much was he involved in that? But he has to go back to prison because of turning back into Abomination. So he accepts the responsibility, but she doesn't have to accept any of the responsibility of what she did because, well, these guys made me do it. Okay. You still did it though. You still did lose control. There should be like a, you know what, Bruce, you're right. I let my emotions get the better of me. Maybe I do need to train a little bit more before I try to do this, superhero lawyer thing. But none of that. It's just things are back to normal for her. Her life's A-okay now. She gets to go be a lawyer and everything's hunky-dory. And that's not a satisfying conclusion. Like, yeah, it's satisfying for the character. So the fact that she wrote this ending, of course, it makes sense for her to write this ending. But from the audience's perspective, it doesn't make any sense. It's not satisfying in a sense of you basically worked around this whole idea of taking responsibility for your actions. Again, I'm still slightly confused how a lot of this makes sense. I know she's able to break the fourth wall, but to go as far as she did with it, even Deadpool, like a lot of his fourth wall breaking whenever he goes, it's not to solve his major problem. It's not to win the day. It's not to beat the bad guy. I don't know. It's like they wanted to take a stand and make a statement about how all Marvel movies end the same. And I'm just thinking, you could have done that. You could have had it end differently without, I don't know, making it not make any sense. I don't know. It's hard to even really say how I truly feel. Like, I'm still kind of processing this ending. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll look back on this and think, that was a really kind of funny way that she just broke out and changed all of that at the end. That was kind of a funny, quirky little thing. Or I might think it's so batshit that it's kind of funny. It's kind of hilarious because, something like The Room is so batshit insane that you just kind of have to laugh about it. At the moment, though, I'm just more thrown off because I'm just so used to, you got a story, it's building up, this is what it's been building to, and then boom, we've got the climax, we've got the finale. This was just, we have no story, little bit of story, boom, climax, and then the character says, no, we're not building up to that. So I feel like I've been blue-balled. Is the best way I can put it. This show overall was not good, though. I mean, again, you have so much, first of all, so much man hate in it that, I mean, as a man watching, you can't just sit here and bash the other gender and be like, hey, it's okay because men are awful to women. Well, you're kind of missing the point then of what sexism is, because it's not like you can only be sexist toward women. You can also be sexist toward men. But they had like a couple of good guys. Pug seemed like a decent guy, and then obviously you have Matt Murdock, and I mean her dad too. But most of the guys, almost all of the guys in this show, are just the dregs of humanity, to the point where you'd really have to wonder who wrote this and who hurt the writer, because it very clearly feels like there was an agenda here to really get back at men in this whole series or this season. I'm not really excited for season 2 though, because now that she is She-Hulk and it does feel like she's accepted that she's She-Hulk, I guess maybe they could go on and actually have her have a legit story with her. But this season overall was just very much a sitcom. You have these different cases coming in and out, that a couple of them were interesting ideas that didn't go anywhere, and a couple of them were just nothing ideas that were, boring and derivative, and like I said, one that was basically out of the Disney Channel. It felt like a villain that was out of the Disney Channel. There were just so many that didn't stick. It didn't have anything really for me to grasp onto as the season went on. I was not really excited to see what was coming next, because most of the time it was, We built up a case, we solved the case, built up another case, solved the other case. That was kind of it. And the whole story with Todd and his group was just basically on the back burner until the final episode. And even with her changing the ending, like you still built up very little to this story. This whole story of her falling apart and her life falling apart that she was talking about, that story was still not really built up very well. So all in all, this season was just a huge mess. And it's something where when she first broke out and she first got into the writing room, in my mind, I'm thinking she's going to bash this whole season, right? But no, she's just bashing the ending. I'm like, it's not just the ending that sucked. This whole season did. This whole season was just a mess from beginning to end, and not, I mean, I've said it multiple times, but painfully unfunny. And that is probably the biggest insult that a comedy can give you, is when it is so unfunny that you actively hurt when they try to make jokes, when you can tell they're trying to make a joke and nothing is landing. And you're just sitting here. It's like watching, Gamescom, I think, recently. One of the speakers, I don't know if she wrote these jokes or if there's a teleprompter with the jokes on them, but she told a couple of jokes and there was just silence from the crowd. It's painful when that happens. It is painful when somebody tells a joke and just nobody's laughing. And that's how a lot of this season felt. It's just a lot of jokes with no laughter behind it. And I know some of that may be because I'm watching alone, but I mean, to be honest, even if I was watching with other people, I really doubt there would be much laughter coming out of this, because there's just not much funny happening, and that's really sad to say. But yeah, we'll see. I think there's supposed to be a season 2, so we'll see what happens with it. I actually don't know for sure if the season 2 has been announced yet, but we're moving on with Marvel from here, so let's hope it gets better, but we'll see. But that's it for me, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these final 3 episodes, as well as the season as a whole? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Marvel reviews. Also, check out the channel. We have a lot of reviews, as well as a couple Let's Play series going on. Check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.